who's creative? Am I creative?
Why don't they like my ideas?
Can I be creative too? What makes her more creative than me?
Can it be learned?
In the psychodynamic perspective, we look at the tension between the conscious and the unconscious. The creative product produced is normally what is socially acceptable. When we look at the behavioral perspective, we look at the use of operant conditioning to be creative. For example, a boy who is positively reinforced by his parents for telling outrageous stories during childhood is likely to continue telling more outrageous stories. A girl who is rewarded by her parents for answering math problems and punished for playing house will most likely take a spoon for a spoon. In the humanistic perspective, a person has free will and is free to choose to be creative in striving for self-actualization or the achievement of one's full potential.
In the cognitive perspective, creativity is based on a person's memory, since one cannot be creative by not knowing the possible options or diversifications of generating such idea.
Looking at it from a social-cultural perspective, creativity is influenced by the type of society a person lives in, his or her friends, and the people around him or her. In the biopsychological perspective, the creative drive is the level of communication between the two lobes of the brain. The corpus callosum, the part of the brain that connects the two lobes, is thicker in diameter in people who score highly on creative tests. In the evolutionary perspective, the ability to possess creative skills in making tools, being a leader, and painting caves gave prehistoric humanoids the evolutionary edge.
So what is creativity? It is the process of combining ideas or behavior in a new way.
The human brain solves problems in two ways: convergent thinking and divergent thinking. Convergent thinking is a type of thinking in which a problem is seen as having only one answer, and all lines of thinking will eventually lead to that single answer, using previous knowledge and logic. Divergent thinking, on the other hand, is the type of thinking in which a person starts from one point and comes up with many different ideas or possibilities based on that point. Studies show that divergent thinking is correlated to abilities of association and disassociation, wherein being able to give more uncommon answers show that one is creative. A plastic bottle in divergent thinking would be used to create a light bulb, a vase, or even a boat.
Creativity varies because of motivation. In approach motivation, people engage in a flexible processing style, wherein they don't find it hard to come up with new ideas. In avoidance motivation, on the other hand, people engage in a persistent processing style, where additional motivators are needed to achieve high levels of creativity, and will only exert effort to be creative to avoid a
An
negative
experiment on
consequence.
children was done where they were asked to come up with different ways of growing trees. The second task difficulty is subject to the score attained by the participant in the first task. They found out that children with approach motivation came up with ideas effortlessly. Those with avoidance motivation exerted effort in forming ideas only when they knew about the effect of the first task to the second
Is
task.
habit against creativity? If we look at them as opposites, then habits would be considered merely as mindless activities. For example, Easter eggs are done yearly and therefore habitually. In each egg design, a recreation is formed, adding one's personal touch, not simply being a mindless activity. In live music performances, songs are repeated, but renditions aren't the same. Mastery involves both habit and creativity. It is wrong to think that as habit increases, creativity diminishes. Mastery and expertise helps creative performance. Creativity isn't free from tradition, but it creates something new out of this. Attachment or habitual practice should come with detachment or not being afraid to deviate from current state than towards creativity. Innovative creativity, prompted by the conscious intention to generate novelty in response to the problem, leads to improvisational creativity, prompted by a problem or difficulty, which leads to habitual creativity, the creativity intrinsic to habitual action. Brainstorming is the generation of as many ideas as possible in a short period of time without judging the idea's form. Perspective taking makes better team creativity as there is a generation of more unique ideas. Carrying a journal helps enhance creativity as you can write down ideas at the instance when you thought of them. Free writing is the uninterrupted writing of anything that comes into mind. Starting from a central idea, a mind map branches out into more ideas, creating a visual representation of linked concepts. Pretend play allows children to create associations. They are able to understand symbols, ideas, and object manipulation. They are able to express positive affect and negative affect. Furthermore, they are able to develop cognitively and develop emotion regulation.
Creativity seems to be learned, and I experienced this back in high school when music was everything to me. Since I was really focused on learning music, I had some fun improvising some things. I composed my own songs as well. When I analyzed my songs though, I would notice that these were variations of songs that I liked. For example, I would take the rhythm of song A and change the notes to something that I would prefer more. If song A had a minor key, for example, and I would want a song in a major key, I would change the notes to a major key while still keeping the rhythm in a song. In this case, the songs that I would like would be my basis for my creativity, then I would just modify this to my liking. I also make songs by merging different elements that I like from different songs to create a whole new piece of creation.
Throughout the project, I learned that creativity is something that isn't intrinsically born into people. Although there are people who have an inclination to being more creative, creativity, like many other skills, can still be learned and honed. Through the different techniques that were discussed, I realized that through constant practice, I can be as creative as anybody too. Learning about creativity allowed me to see a wider perspective on people. I learned that creativity can be enhanced and developed through many easy ways. In this process, I too was able to enhance my creativity as I helped form this project.
I learned that everybody is capable of being creative and that enhancing creativity starts during childhood, and that the role of the parents are valuable in harnessing a person's creativity. In the past generation of assembly lines, creativity, especially important in innovation technology, is the only way to break free of the monotony and dullness that the society today deems full of work.
I was awed at how easy I can stimulate my creativity level. I can actually do them during any time of the day, every day. And so I decided to do these things. I now have my thoughts journal matched with its own pen, where I would write thoughts that come to my mind instantly. Also, when there is a problem I must solve, I try to consider every solution there may be to practice my divergent thinking. Even though I laugh at myself, I just tell myself that this is because I am increasing my levels of creativity. After a few days, I read my thoughts journal and realized I have unusual creative, ideas that can somehow make sense.
We learned that